Melchizedek, Morgan, these things, you try to just with the God side. But to Malcolm, it's what's love, conquer hate. Melchizedek, moving through these things, we try to just with the God side. But to Malcolm, it's what's love, conquer hate. All right, we're gonna get started in a moment. Let the room fill up a little bit more. All right, we'll get into money control and corruption inside the Fed, Federal Reserve Bank. We're gonna get into that discussion tonight. You see it? All right, hold on, y'all. Little technical difficulties, we're gonna get it right. All right, so let's get into it tonight. It's gonna be a real short one, but it's gonna be pretty good. So just bear with us. All right. You check the Constitution for the United States of America. It states Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5, Congress shall have power to coin money, regulate the value thereof, and of foreign coin. Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1, no state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. Obviously, we have gotten away from the Constitution. Note that there is no such thing as prohibition against Congress or any delegate power to make anything legal tender. Congress was originally understood to have no power to make anything legal tender outside of the federal territories under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, and Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2. But in 1868, which is the same year they claimed that the 14th Amendment was ratified by 2/3 of Congress, which it wasn't, or 2/3 of the states, which it wasn't. A Supreme Court packed by President Ulysses S. Grant in the legal tender cases allowed Congress to make paper currency issued by the United States Treasury, backed by gold, legal tender in the state territories, a precedent that remained controversial to this day, when court allowed paper currency not backed by anything to be considered legal tender. According to Moorish historian Only the first 10 amendments called the Bill of Rights apply to us based on Article 6, all right, of the Constitution, which states that this Constitution, its laws, and the treaties are the supreme law of the land. The Seventh Amendment, the only money amount in the Constitution and its amendments is in the Seventh Amendment. In suits at common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20, the right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise re-examined in any court of the United States, then according to the rules of the common law. So the question is, how many silver coins do a Moor need to really declare themselves sovereign, to invoke common law, or to seek remedy under Article 6, treaties are the supreme law of the land? Well, the Constitution states that controversy shall exceed, the value in controversy shall exceed common law, where the value in controversy shall exceed $20. $20 of what? $20 in coins, coinage, 20 coins, right? 99.9% pure, all right? A troy ounce of pure silver. In 1789, the dollar was a coin, the Spanish teller, containing 371.25 grams of pure silver, or 416 grams of silver, grains of silver of standard coin grade purity. A troy ounce, the standard measurement unit for precious minerals, is 480 grains. So a dollar contains 0.7734 troy ounce of pure silver, and 20 such coins will weigh 17.3333 troy ounces and contain 15.46875 troy ounces of pure silver. One can use the Moneda currency converter to find out what the current value of that amount of bulk silver would be in Federal Reserve notes. For example, in June 2000, it would be amounted $87.71 in Federal Reserve notes. However, keep in mind that the world trade pricing for gold and silver is the bulk wholesale price for ingots in minimal quantities of 400 troy ounces. And the trade for title, hence a silver or gold bond and not a physical deliverance of ingots. A single coin, it would be about twice that bulk value. So the Constitution threshold under the 8th Amendment would be closer to $176 in Federal Reserve notes, right? That would be the minimal value in controversy that would reserve the right to a trial by jury in a civil case. Now that's interesting because in order to do a trial at a federal level, a civil trial, it will have to be $350 in which that you have to pay just to get your paperwork looked at by the judges, all right? And they still have the ability in order to deny it if they choose to, right? Warman's coins and money paper, or paper money, excuse me, 5th edition, all right? Is by Shear. All right, you can get that book. Of April the 2nd, 1792, the Coinage Act of March 4th, 1900, Dollar Defined Dictionary and Statutory Definitions of Money, 1856, 1996, excerpts from 1924, Congressional Records, the Federal Reserve and the several large banks deliberately contracted to extend credit to the agricultural industry for the purpose of eliminating many farmers. The gold confiscation on April the 5th, 1933, right? Unconstitutional act of Congress and the President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. By June 5th, 1933, a House Joint Resolution was established paper for paper system. This is the same system that we under. It has not been revoked, all right? So Forget all this nonsense that you've been hearing about reset, and they've been saying the same damn thing about a reset for the last 8 damn years, and no reset has happened as of yet. Every year is a reset. All right, this is worse than the Jehovah's Witnesses talking about Jesus coming back every goddamn year, and you listening to that bullshit. There has been no reset. It won't be a reset, all right, unless this crashes dramatically, right? That has not happened as of yet. And then that happened in 2008 with Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, HUD, etc. When they crashed, and then they blamed your so-called black ass for the crash, which was worse than the crash that allegedly took place during President Franklin Delano Roosevelt's time, right? Allegedly, it was worse than that. Money as debt quotients. Revealing statements from public figures. Title 31, United States Code 5103, defining legal tender. However, it is only constitutionally applies to non-state U.S. territories, such as federal enclaves created under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, or in Corporate Territory Acts, Section Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2, the Virgin Islands, Guam, Puerto Rico, etc. Court cases, antebellum money cases, including some Civil War legal tender cases, all right, compiled by Larry Beecroft. Commentary books you need, Gold and Economic Freedom by Alan Greenspan, 1966. Before he became bank, he had some strong opinions, which he has never repudiated. Pieces of 8 by Edwin Verrier, all right? Comprehensive thesis on money. What is a dollar? A historical analysis of the fundamental question in monetary policy by Edwin Verrier. Verrier. So here, trashing the Constitution, how misconstruction of the monetary powers and disability subverted the founding fathers' intent. This is a speech by him before the Rotary Club of New York, March 25th, 2003. Money issue memorandum of law by Larry Beecroft. A covenant or an inquiry into the evils of fluctuating medium of exchange by Roger Sherman, 1752, by the author of the Tender Clause of the United States Constitution, De Monta, all right, and you have Nicholas Orisme, all right, 1484, translated from Latin by Charles Johnson. Classic treatise on money and coinage. Get this book, The Creature from the Jackal Island by G. Edward Griffin. A second look at the Federal Reserve. You definitely need that book. Control of Money, a comprehensive annual financial report, CAFR. In case you thought we was living in a free enterprise economy, think again. Court rules. Federal Reserve is privately owned. Lewis versus United States. See, these are the same Negroes that would tell you that you can have a MSTA as a 501c3, and that's fine. And they would never dissolve it. All right? I'm just giving an example. Because this court has already ruled that the Federal Reserve is a privately owned corporation. Lewis versus United States, 680 F.2D 1239. This is 1982. All right, so this reminds me of when we travel from Jacksonville or from Florida up towards Georgia, South Carolina, back into North Carolina. which we travel that often, but we passed by Jekyll Island on the way there. All right. And I can't help but think about the Federal Reserve Bank, the Federal Reserve System, also known as the Federal Reserve and informally as the Fed, is the centralized banking system of the United States. And it was created on December 23rd, 1913, the same year as the founding of the Canaanite Temple, Prophet Noble Ali. With the enactment of the Federal Reserve Act, Thomas Jefferson, who himself, Amor, don't let this Albion picture here to the left throw you off. John Jefferson was the son of a half-breeded Indian squaw and a Virginia mulatto father. Therefore, excuse this Europeanized picture to the left. Jefferson was concise in his early warning to the American nation that if American people ever allow private banks to control the issuance of their currency, first by what they refer to as they refer to it as inflation, and then by deflation. All right, inflation means that they cause it to increase dramatically and then decrease, just like they did recently with the Bitcoins. Right, it got up to $19,000 for one Bitcoin. Now it's down to 6,000. Right? The banks and the corporations then will grow up around them and will deprive the people of all their property until their children will wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered. All right? Now, you can read that in my book. All right? The First World Order. Also in Sex and Race by J. Rogers concerning Thomas Jefferson, and The Six Black Presidents by Offset Akufu. All right. In October of 1907, several bank firms, starting with the Knickerbocker Trust Company of New York, collapsed as depositors withdrew funds from fear of unwise investments and misuse of money. Lines of people waited in front of the Knickerbocker to close their accounts. Days later, the Trust Company of America had droves of depositors removing their money. Then shortly thereafter, a run took place at the Lincoln Trust Company. And across the country, apprehension that the panic would continue to spread occurred. In 1907, the fall of 1907, the United States were in a recession and following a major player. All right, and the following are the major players in the establishment of the Federal Reserve Bank. All right, you have Paul Warburg, Senator Nelson Aldrich. And Paul Warburg said that whoever controls the value of money in any country is absolute master of all industry and commerce. And he's the one who drafted the Federal Reserve Act. You have Frank Vanderlip, Benjamin Strong, J.P. Morgan, right? And this is J.P. Morgan, basically a castle on Jekyll Island off of Georgia. You have Henry P. Davidson and Charles D. Norton. Using this in November of 1910, while meeting under the ruse of a duck shooting excursion, the financiers, all right, or the financial experts, were in reality hunting for a way to restructure American banking system and eliminate the possibilities of future economic panics. The hunters were the major players in American mercantilism, which was, like we said, Senator Nelson Aldrich, who had headed up the National Monetary Commission, a congressional committee dedicated to developing ideas for centralized banking or central banking. And then Frank Vanderlip, who I showed you, of the Rockefeller National Citizen Bank. Paul Warburg of the investment firm of Kuhn Loeb and Company, who was there to promote the German Central Bank of Bismarck, Charles Norton of First National Bank of New York, a Morgan's company, and Davidson, a partner of J.P. Morgan's. Now, from the start, the group proceeded covertly. And in 1916, B.C. Forbes discussed the Jekyll's Convention in his book, Men Who Are Making America, and illuminates. To this day, these financiers are Frank and Harry and Paul and Piat to one another, and the late senator's remains Nelson to them until his death. Later, following the Jekyll's conference, Benjamin Strong Jr., a magazine article by Forbes, is the only public 1930, when Paul Warburg's books, The Federal Reserve System, Its Origin and Growth. You need to get that book. And Nathaniel Wright Stephenson book, Nelson W. Eldridge, A Leader in American Politics, were published. Plain and simple, the Federal Reserve is not a part of the federal government. Federal Reserve, it is not federal, and it does not have any reserves. In fact, it is no more federal than FedEx, right? It is a privately held corporation owned by stockholders. This is why the Federal Reserve Bank of New York and all the others is listed in the Dun and Bradstreet Reference Book of America Business, all right? Northeast Region 1, Manhattan, Bronx. And according to Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution, only Congress has the right to issue money and regulates its value. So it is illegal for private interests to do so. Yet it happened. And because of a provision in the act, the Class A stockholders were to be kept as secret and not to be revealed. But R.F. McMaster's was published a newsletter called The Reaper. Through his Swiss and Saudi Arabian contacts, were able to find out which banks held a controlling interest in the reserve. All right? The interest controls the Federal Reserve through about 300 stockholders. The real owners of the Federal Reserve Bank and the Federal Reserve System are the Rothschilds, Bank of London and Berlin, the Lazare Brothers, Bank of Paris, Israel Moses Seth, Bank of Italy, Warburg Bank of Hamburg and Amsterdam, the Lehman Brothers Bank of New York, the Kuhn Loeb and Company of New York, Chase Manhattan Bank of New York, which is the Rockefellers, and Goldman Sachs of New York. Right? These are the owners, and of the reportedly 200,353 shares of the New York Bank, Rockefeller's National 30,000 shares. Morgan First National Bank has 15,000 shares. Chase National Bank has 6,000 shares. National Bank of Commerce Morgan Guaranteed Trust has 21,000 shares. In a June 15th, 1978 Senate report called Interlocking Dictatoriates among the major United States corporations revealed that the 5 New York banks has 470 interlocking dictatoriates with 130 major United States corporations. Some of these corporations is Citicorp, 97, JP Morgan's Bank, 99, Chase Manhattan Bank, 89, Manufacturers Hangover, 89, Chemical Bank, 96. Get the book, The Secrets of the Temple, How the Federal Reserve Runs This Country by William Gereder, right? According to Eunice Mullen, these banks are major stockholders in the Fed. In his book, World Order, right? Not the First World Order, that's my book, but the World Order. He says that these 5 banks are controlled from London. Mullen states, besides its controlling interest in the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, the Rothschilds have developed important financial interests in other parts of the United States. The entire Rockefeller empire was financed by the Rothschilds. All right, basically, M. Rothschild said, "Permit me to issue and control the money of a nation, and I care not who makes its laws." This is Maya M. Rothschild, who had allegedly $600 trillion of gold in his basements that he stole from out of Africa. Cecil Rhodes helped him to do that, because Cecil Rhodes was a pawn of his. And Cecil Rhodes, if you don't know, which is Rhodesia or Rhodesia, which becomes actually Zimbabwe as it is called now, killed and murdered 25 million Africans to get that gold. All right. So who were the Rothschilds? The Rothschilds were the banking financiers and accountants for the Vatican. Okay. Maya M. Rothschild here to the left, and John D. Rockefeller to the right. These are the individuals. All right. If you get my videotape that I did actually back in 2001, 2002 on the 13 Illuminati blood clans, I speak about the 13 families of the so-called Illuminati: the Astors, the Bundys, the Collins, the DuPonts, the Morgans, the Freemans, the Lees, the Reynolds, the Van Dyne, the Russell, the Morvingian, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, also the Canoops, the Disney, and the McDonald family. Right? It's 13 and more richest families in the world, in which that controls allegedly 51% of the resources and monies upon the planet. All right. So that's today's class. All right. Like I said, it's going to be short and sweet, powerful shit. We ain't playing. All right. So you need to learn how to get into the goal that you can have something of substance, because that's the whole thing about the Joint House Resolution 192, passed in 1933 by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, called the New Deal, was to take the monies that was once being backed by gold and silver from off the standard of gold, in particular. And by 1972, with Richard Nixon, it was taken off the silver standard. The money was taken off the silver standard. So since 1972 or so, since the 1970s, no money has been backed by anything of substance. We are now officially in the land of Oz. Right? Get the book Precious Metals Investing for Dummies by P.J. Belendin Novick. All right, get that book. All right, as usual, we love y'all. You know, except do your research, do your